Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday. It is March 10th, and we are deep into tournament time. We are coming to you from Chicago, site of the Big Ten tournament, of course, as we've reached double bye day. Indiana plays tonight, the late game, of course. But all the teams that have the double bye will play today, including Purdue. In addition to who else have we got playing today? It's hard to keep track with everybody. Northwestern and Michigan State, who slid into that double bye situation as well. So the Big Ten also underway already, of course. Fred pointing out that Jack Nungy had a double-double in Xavier's last night win. Great performance from the kid from Newburgh, Indiana, for our listeners down on the ref. That's where Nungy's from, down in that way. So congratulations to him. Hey, Xavier's going to be one of those teams, man. It's funny, a team that Indiana played in the opening part of the season and went and got a huge win on the road that – you thinking back, no one realized at the time how big of a win that was going to be. Who thought that would be one of the biggest wins of the season for Indiana? And right now, it's probably the third biggest win when you put behind the two wins over Purdue. So lots going on. It is cold and snowy in Chicago, as I guess it should say. John's coming to us from Cincinnati. Everybody hitting us up early and often on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Don't forget, we're powered by Andy Moore Honda, the number one Honda dealer in Bloomington. Go to andymoorehonda.com and make sure you get more to your door with andymoorehonda.com. And, of course, the great family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area from Endeavor, whether it's BB's or Southern Stone, Feast, Market and Cellar, all kinds of great places. But BB's is your butcher, your baker, no matter where you live, full-size bakery, in addition to all the greatest and custom meats and the most in-house made products of any place you can find. They keep me going in between the games. No place like BB's here in Chicago. Missed it for sure. But we'll get by. Maybe I'll have a hot dog. I did have pizza last night. Finally ate. I had something to eat around 11 o'clock, I think. But it is tournament weekend. What are your thoughts? I know from Indiana perspective, fans, what they're looking at and expecting. A lot of other tournaments going on as well. I wonder how much impact there will be. Thanks a lot, Michael. Appreciate you. Did make it in, made it before the snow hit. That was most important part. And it wasn't, this was probably the easiest trip into Chicago I've ever had. I have to say, traffic-wise and all that, wasn't too bad. Wasn't terrible. So, Kevin, how are you doing, sir? Yeah, I just was reading that this morning. Rick Pitino, they're linking him to potentially the St. John's job, which again, right up his alley. Anything along that upper East Coast is right up his alley. And anybody that doesn't take him, I'm gonna be honest with you, they're dumb. He's the greatest coach in college basketball, bad without question. Today, that's still roaming the sidelines. Jason pointing out a bad loss last night for Steve Alford in Nevada. I didn't see that. I saw that they were playing. But, yeah, teams like that cannot afford many losses. Who'd they lose to? I had to pull that up. But last I saw that they were winning in their game. I don't know if it was last night or the night before. Let's see. Jordan asks, what do we have to do and who's the key to this run? To win the Big Ten tournament? Jordan, is that your question? They just, it comes down to guard play for not only Indiana, but who they're playing. And by whom they're playing, I mean, can Indiana keep the opposing guards under wraps? That's going to show its head when they play Northwestern. That's what you're going to have to worry about. Boo Booey, Chase Audige, those guys. But of course, that's putting the cart before the horse because they're probably going to play. Well, they are going to play Maryland today. And they played the late game last night. They'll have the late game again tonight, so they'll have the time to rest. But in watching that team, I don't see them matching up to Indiana talent-wise. They've got some nice pieces, but they do not have – they don't have a point guard that really runs the show like Jalen Hood-Schifino that is as dangerous as Jalen Hood-Schifino is. And they don't have a Trace Jackson Davis, period. So they're already, to me, beat at two of the most important spots on the floor. Doesn't always matter in a game, but from a talent perspective and a talent standpoint, Indiana is just a more talented team than Maryland, in my opinion. I think that they're an okay team, but I just didn't see enough for them to – they should not beat Indiana. Indiana's a better team from a talent perspective. Doesn't always win the game for you, but from what I saw watching up close, my first time to see Maryland in person last night, again, I think that they're a talented squad. And they've got a lot coming in recruiting-wise, but that doesn't help them today. They're well coached, but Indiana should win this game tonight and move on. But coulda, shoulda, wouldas. We'll see what they do. How has the rest helped Indiana? You know, we had the opportunity to talk to Mike Woodson, Trace Jackson Davis, and Jalen Hood-Schifino, and I'm not sure if Joe has any of those clips for us to hear later on, but hopefully we will get to hear from those guys as Mike Woodson goes into his second Big Ten tournament, and I'm sure that makes a difference for him without question. But it's his second season. It's not like he's a rookie to begin with, but second season as the college coach, there is a difference. There's a difference in tournament play. There's a difference in using how you use the guys. So we got so much coming up today. Alec Lasley's on the program, of course, from thehoosier.com, as we'll preview the Big Ten tournament, along with Zach Osterman from the Indy Star as well. So looking forward to that. And it's just going to be a fun day, man. It's tournament time. Looking forward to it. Joe, the producer, filling in for John, the producer today, as John's on assignment. He picked a good day to not be here. Not that he would be here, but and you forgot that their PB&J sandwiches are on the way up. Yep, I sure did, man. I did not get a chance to stop by to visit with our friend Chris Denari. So did not get to do that, unfortunately. So gotta make sure I go over here. Turn this alarm off, by the way. That double make sure that we were up and at it today. Hate switching time zones. I'm always like, is this the time? Does the alarm switch? Did it switch automatically? And no, they don't switch automatically sometimes. What are your thoughts today? What have you seen so far from the Big Ten tournament? How it's gone? Looking across the Andy Moore Honda hotline. 5 lefts jumping on. Brad. Yeah, San Jose, man. Do you know the way to San Jose? Not a good loss. You're correct for Nevada. Justin says, feels weird that the opening game for Indiana in the Big Ten tournament isn't a must-win. Pretty much elimination game. That's true. They're in the tournament regardless. That was not the case a year ago. A year ago was nothing but gnashing his teeth. And I don't think that if they were upset and lost to Maryland, right? Yeah, that's who they play. Maryland's not a team that's going to hurt them. I don't think you really want to lose in the first round because you don't know what could happen above you. But I think that they're fine as a 4 seed. I don't think they're going to go higher. I really don't. Now, if they went on a run and won the Big Ten championship, possibly you're looking at moving up one seed line. But I don't know, does that help or hurt? Where would that put them as far as where they would end up? That's the key. So, but it's tournament time, man. And the Big Ten tournament is off and going, and I don't think any huge upsets. Ohio State winning, well, Minnesota winning yesterday was a bit of an upset. No question about that. Ohio State getting the win, not surprising, but you have to call it an upset because they're one of the lower ranked teams. So, but nothing that really staggered you. There's nothing that's shocking or nothing that's changing any of the narratives for who's going where and what teams are going in. Now, how many teams will end up getting in from the Big Ten? We're still waiting on that. But we'll see. John said he'd like to see Galloway drive the ball as well as the guards attack. They could certainly use that. And I think that he has to get a little more comfortable with that. Mark says they press and play zone, which has been a bugaboo for IU. Hopefully they're prepared for that. Yeah, that's something I noticed last night. Maryland, kind of a soft press, at times a little more. They put the pressure on a little bit more at times, depending on the situation. But yeah, there's always a little soft pressure for Maryland last night. As a matter of fact, I was writing all kind of notes down from watching that game over there. They pressure the inbounds, things like that. They got they forced 2 10-second calls against Minnesota in the first half. I don't know the last time I saw a 10-second call in a college basketball game, but it's been a while. But they had 2. They forced 2 called on Minnesota last night. I think Joe's telling me it's time to take a break. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, my man. You're the boss, Joe, the producer. We've got Alec Lasley coming up. We'll pick all this back up and more as I'm coming to you, of course, from Chicago, side of the 2023 Big Ten Men's Basketball Tournament. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com joined us next. We're brought to you by BB's Market, your butcher, baker, no matter where you live. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's at our place or yours.
Morning.
Hey, Joe, can you hear me through the mic now?
Yeah, we got you.
So you can hear me through the mic now differently than before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wanted to tell because I just hooked the mic up. So the sound should be remarkably better.
Yeah, it is. $30 seconds.
An exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Tournament Friday, brought to you by our good friends from Southern Stone Restaurant. Whether it's a celebration or just a relaxing night away from the kitchen, try something fresh and new. Southern Stone, located at Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington, offers all that and much more. Joined now by Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Alec, how's it going on this Friday?
Good. Good morning. How are you doing?
Doing fine, up and at it. It is tournament day for Indiana fans and anybody else that had a double bye for that matter, as they will pick up their first game today. That includes Purdue, Michigan State, and Northwestern, the home team, I guess, of sorts, if you can call it that. I don't know that you can really consider Northwestern a home team since they get outdrawn here by both Purdue and Indiana at most games. So, but it will be interesting to see. I think this is going to be an interesting tournament to see who wins this thing. I don't think that it's wide open from the bottom at all. I don't see any of the well, I shouldn't say any of the teams. I'm not expecting any major upsets going forward, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But these teams are rested. Indiana finally got some rest. They probably needed it more than anybody, maybe, but they got some days off, and they'll get a few more days off in between the NCAA tournament. Not a lot, though, as that kicks right into play. But rest is something they haven't had much of until now.
Yeah, and you heard not only Mike Woodson talk about it coming into today, but even after the Michigan game last weekend. That last year at this time, right? Obviously, they were pretty much fighting for their tournament lives to try to get in. They had to win 4 in 4 days, and they had the extremely quick turnaround for the NCAA tournament. This time, you have that extra day of rest that only 4 teams get in the Big Ten tournament. So while you're still looking to win three games in 3 days, it's entirely different to do that than 4 games in 4 days. And I think a lot of that shows with just the ability for some of these better seeds to continue to reach the finals, or at least the semifinals in the Big Ten tournament year and year again. Especially with the grueling style of the 20 game schedule in the regular season. To come in and try to win 4 games in 4 nights is always extremely difficult. Even to do 3 in 3 is extremely difficult. And so for Indiana to get that extra day, and while they are very much focused on the Big Ten tournament and winning their first ever Big Ten tournament title, getting back to the Big Ten tournament championship for the first time since 2001, it's something that they really need when you're talking about going into next week and potentially beyond that.
Yeah, because this is a team that relies for a team that was thought of that had such great depth. That has not really truly been the case. They have drawn a ton of minutes to guys like Trace Jackson Davis, Jalen Hutchifino, and for the guards, maybe it doesn't matter so much, but the big guys, that pounding that takes its toll over the course of a season. But it's tournament time, and you just have to bear down because everybody's gone through the same thing. And Trace Jackson Davis is going to continue to play a ton of minutes. He's going to play 37 minutes a game from now on, so he has to be prepared for that. But fortunately, there will be this is the last weekend you'll play 3 games. The most you'll play is 2 after that, so you should be able to stay rested, and it'll be a week apart, so you won't have to worry about playing every 3 days. So they should be fine in that regard. Race Thompson seems healthy. He looked in the last game. Not only did he look healthy, he looked aggressive. I talked to him in the post game about that. You could tell he had this determined air about him, and he said that Coach Woodson basically told him, score the ball, stop, because he said, I turned it over, and he goes, score the ball, and you could tell something had affected him because he was a different player. He wasn't giving the ball up when he got it in the paint. He was taking it to the rack.
Yeah, no, he not only looked healthy, but he looked confident, right? And both of those things go hand in hand, especially when you're coming back from any sort of injury, especially the one that he had when he thought that he was going to be done for the remainder of the season, ultimately ending his career. I think a lot of people were surprised when he did come back, the minutes that he was playing. But at that point, right, Indiana didn't really have another option. And so I think now looking back on that probably helped him get to the point where he is today, to realize that he can play significant minutes. He can, have a vital part of this offense and this defense, and be confident in it, because Indiana needs him to play the way that he did on Sunday if they want to make a deep run this week and if they want to make a deep run in March, because, like you talked about, like we've talked about for numerous weeks now, this bench for Indiana, the depth that Indiana thought they had coming into this year is no longer there, right? I mean, Jordan Geronimo has dealt with numerous health issues the entire season, and he's pretty much, kind of fallen out of the rotation for the most part, at least in the second half. Caleb Banks is getting some energy minutes in the first half, but really isn't seeing anything come the second half. So you're pretty much relying on Malik Renew, who obviously is someone who, has attempted and caused many fouls throughout his, freshman season thus far. So Race Thompson's going to have to play some big minutes if Indiana wants to move on and advance. But I do think that the confidence is back, the health is back, and you saw that on both ends of the floor on Sunday, which was by far his best performance, I think, of the entire season.
Something in watching Maryland play last night, not Maryland, my goodness. Or was it Maryland?
Maryland last night, yep.
Yeah. They do always, at least at a minimum, a soft press, if not harder at points. But they're always going to put that pressure on Indiana or on the teams, and that's something that Indiana has to be prepared for. I saw it. Minnesota get to them at times, but not really because it's a soft press. But like I said, they got 2 10-second calls in the first half, just applying rudimentary pressure. So Indiana's going to have to be prepared for just a different type of defense in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you look back at the first matchup, the physical style of play, the athleticism that Maryland has on the wings and in the backcourt was something that really, really impacted that outcome. Something that I don't think is going to be the same this time around, but Jalen Hood-Schifino was 1 of 14 in that game. If people remember, his only lone made field goal came basically at I think it was the 3:30 mark of the second half. So that's highly unlikely to happen this time around. But that physical style of play, I think, was kind of the first time that you really saw Jalen Hood-Schifino struggle with the length and athleticism they have in the backcourt, where they're able to throw, 3, 4, 5 different players defensively on a guy like that, where, Jalen Hood-Schifino is obviously manning a large majority of those ball handling duties. And that's something that when you're playing 38, 39, 40 minutes a game is very difficult to do if you don't have a true secondary ball handler. And that's where not having a guy like Xavier Johnson in these types of moments and these types of games going up against a very, very efficient and very good defense of Maryland is where you miss him the most. And, it's interesting. Last night on the broadcast, they were talking about Maryland's defense a little bit more as well. And, this is the best, statistically the best Maryland defense since the 81-82 season in opponents' points per game. And coming into last night, Indiana has actually scored the least amount of points with any opponent against Maryland. Again, a large majority of that was because of Jalen Hood-Schifino's struggles. But it is something to show that if those guards are not on for Indiana tonight, it's going to be a very, very long night because they cannot solely rely on Trace Jackson Davis anymore at this point in the season. They have to have a second and a third player contribute every single game. And if you're not getting that from that backcourt, especially a guy like Jalen Hood-Schifino, you're going to struggle to not only score the ball, but just to struggle to maintain any sort of presence offensively. And that's what you really saw in that first matchup. And that's something that they're really going to have to flip tonight if they want to not only stay in this one, but obviously come out with a win.
Yeah, that's something I was noticing last night. I was looking at the score, and it was staying low throughout the first half. And I was like, okay, we're on par for a 40-point game here, man, from Minnesota. But Wisconsin or Maryland was doing a good job keeping them down. Of course, that's Minnesota we're talking about, but they weren't scoring a ton of points. They seemed satisfied to keep it in a low-scoring game. But yeah, they were definitely keeping it Minnesota off the scoring line. But Minnesota also does not have the talent that Indiana has. Maryland does not really have someone that can stop Trace Jackson Davis from the freshman Reese. He's a good piece, and he's young and quick, but they don't have a guard that is as good as Jalen Hood-Schifino. I don't think so. I think Indiana wins in that regard there. but it's the other pieces that have to play together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you talk about Julian Reese, one of the two areas that he impacts the game most are offensive rebounding and then rim protection. He's phenomenal at both, but one of the other major parts is he leads the Big Ten in fouls. He's averaging 4.8 fouls per 40 minutes. He's already averaging almost 3.5 fouls in the minutes that he does play. And when you talk about a very physical style of play that Trace Jackson-Davis likes to have on that end of the floor, that's going to be extremely notable and a key story to kind of follow in this one. Really was not in foul trouble in the first matchup. Had double-double in the first matchup with Indiana. Trace Jackson-Davis obviously still had his with 18 points and 20 rebounds and extremely efficient from the floor. But that's when you get into kind of that backcourt play, because we know Trace Jackson-Davis is going to be able to get his. And even if he's not scoring, right, this season he's shown the ability to still have the offense run through him and not have any sort of stagnant offense. His ability to pass out of double teams, his ability to create off of the dribble, I think is obviously phenomenal at this point. But Jameer Young and Don Carey, Hakeem Hart, these guys are really, really good, tough wings and guards for Maryland, and they bring that chip on their shoulder that those old Maryland teams used to play with when they were in the ACC. And so this is a very difficult matchup for Indiana in a lot of different areas. Their ability to drive offensively for Maryland from the perimeter is something that Indiana really struggled to maintain. They've really struggled in that area for the majority of Mike Woodson's tenure for wing perimeter players. And then you look at the small ball kind of hybrid versatile four in Donta Scott, and that's a position that's always killed Indiana. Indiana's inability to guard a versatile athletic four-man has been the downfall of this defense in almost every single loss that they've had this year. And Donta Scott had 19 in the first matchup, was pretty much unstoppable when he got the ball in his hands. But Indiana needs to live with him taking the three. He shoots over 4 threes a game, but he's only hitting 29% on the season. He's only 1 for 7 in the first matchup. So if Indiana is able to, continue to keep him out on the perimeter, and if he makes 3, 4, 5 threes, then you're going to live with that, because he's shown in his 4 years he's not going to continually do that. And if he gets hot, then he gets hot. But if you're going to allow him to take any of those bigs for Indiana off the dribble, or get in any sort of a mismatch and switch with any of those smaller athletic forwards that Indiana has, that's still going to be a mismatch, because he's just so strong, and his ability to out-muscle anyone in the paint was evident in that first matchup. So Indiana's going to have their hands full. I think Maryland is a very, very talented team, a very, very veteran team. Not a lot of major games that this group has played in, but they have played in a lot of games. So I think this is going to be a really, really fun matchup, a really, really good matchup individually all across the floor. But Indiana needs to win those matchups in more way than one, because they really struggled to do that in the first matchup.
Other games yesterday in the Big Ten, of course, Rutgers pretty much put an end to Michigan's season. I think that there any question of that, with a 62-50 win over them in the second round yesterday. That should put any thoughts of Michigan making the tournament to bed for certain, I think. Let's see. Ohio State, big win over Iowa. That's not a good loss for Iowa. They lose 73-69 to the Buckeyes. And Iowa, have they lost 2 straight now?
Yep, I lost to Nebraska in the on senior day on Sunday. So
how about that? Your last 2 games, you lose to Nebraska and Ohio State, 2 of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, and vastly different than what Iowa was playing like at this time last year. Obviously going in and winning the Big Ten tournament before ultimately falling in the first round of the NCAA tournament. But Iowa is one of those teams where if they get hot, they're extremely difficult to beat. if they struggle to shoot the ball and they struggle to get out in transition and use some of that that athleticism that they have at the guard position, they really struggle. And you've seen that at times throughout this season, but you've also seen the good and the very, very streakiness of numerous of those players. And so that's what happened yesterday. That's what's happened the majority of that that season for that team. But Ohio State, they, as bad as they've been this year, you look at that roster from top to bottom, and you struggle to see how they got to where they are right now. And I think Bruce Thornton has been phenomenal over the last month. The Ohio State's playing a lot better over the last couple of weeks than they were the majority of this season. And so they're going to be a tough out for obviously anyone that they continue to face moving forward for the next couple of games if they're able to get out of today. And then you go down the bracket there, and really, really interested in that Penn State Northwestern game. I think that Penn State's playing about as well as anyone in not only the Big Ten, but over the last week or two in the country, with how they've been able to put together some much needed wins when they really needed to, with their backs up against the wall, to now pretty much ensure their spot in the NCAA tournament, which was very much on the other side of the bubble going into last week. So this is probably one of the best days in Big Ten basketball, the Friday that you have in the Big Ten tournament. And once again you have 4 really, really fun loaded matchups going into what's obviously going to be another fun weekend for Big Ten basketball.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on what you were saying there in the beginning, but I forgot the point that I was going to make. But yeah, as far as the game today is the day, man. The 4 greatest games, not only in the Big Ten, but in a lot of the conferences. This is the one you've got in the Big East. You've got Creighton and Xavier playing tonight. Number 24 Creighton and number 15 Xavier. That's a huge game. Yeah, in the Big Ten,
correct me. I may be wrong on this, but I think I'm correct in saying that the Big Ten is still the only conference that has 4 games today, because they go, the only major conference, because they go to Sunday. I think that they're the only ones that have all 4. ACC's down to their semifinals today.
They started earlier, and the Big 12 has less teams.
So
SEC.
And that's SEC, correct? Yeah, there we go. I knew I was missing something there, but yeah, just going back to the phenomenal play of the Big Ten, the fun matchups that you get, and that's been the case all season long. When you look at kind of what Sunday was last Sunday, where any team could fall from basically 2 to 9 with a win or with a loss, and that's obviously showed itself up to this point in the first two days of the tournament.
Well, of course, games today, Maryland, Indiana, of course, that's tonight. And scheduled that'll happen around 9:00, 9:30ish. It's the last game of the day. Purdue, of course, and Rutgers start things off. Can Rutgers, do they have what it takes to pull the upset? They've had moments where they have played really well this year, and they had kind of fallen onto the schneid at the end of the season. Here's a chance to make some noise.
Yeah, absolutely. They were the one team that really needed to get that win yesterday, obviously against Michigan. Both of those teams pretty much kind of playing the very similar spot that Michigan was last year against Indiana. That same matchup, that kind of win or go home, or I guess advance into the potential NCAA tournament or fall short. Obviously, Indiana was able to come out with that one last year. Michigan on the same side of that outcome this year. But yeah, I think Rutgers is a team that has really struggled since Mag went down with his injury a couple weeks ago, and they've kind of struggled to find who they are without him about the last month or so. But if you look back to the matchup with Purdue earlier in the season, they were able to come out with the win. When Purdue was ranked number 1 and it was at Purdue. I think this is still a very good matchup for Rutgers, especially a team that finally saw a win yesterday. They're a team that's still has a lot of talent on that roster and a lot of really good coaching on the sidelines there. And, whereas Purdue tends to obviously do well in the Big Ten tournament, it's not something where by any means I think anyone's truly scared of Purdue anymore. A team that's really struggled over the last month to find any level of consistency going into postseason play. So we'll see what those guards can do with Purdue. It's always going to come down to the freshman guards. We know what the script is to beat Purdue, and we'll see if Rutgers can do that. But Purdue's not a scary team by any means, in my opinion, to go up and face moving forward.
I think we're late for a break, so let's take that, and we'll come back and outlay the rest of the Big Ten tournament. Not only the Big Ten tournament, talk about the Big 12. There's some other great games going on today. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Go Team. For those of you on the go, it's hard to find a fresh, tasty snack on the go that's healthy. Go Team provides that and much more, full of protein powder and great tasting flavors. Pick them up at BB's Market or just go to GoTeamBites.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's a deal you won't want to pass up. JoJo, you got to stay on us on the breaks, man.
I was just letting y'all were on a roll there. I was going to let you finish that up.
Doesn't matter. You just got to let me know, though, because I'll keep going.
All right, I will.
Cool. All right. So where was I? Anything big popping today that outside of this? Outside of the Big Ten?
Nope. Everything's the sole focus on conference tournaments.
Alabama doesn't play anybody. Tennessee and Missouri. There's a game in the SEC. Iona was Rick. He's going to end up winning that championship. Then going on to UConn and Marquette in the Big East.
Yeah.
The least looked forward to game of the day: Penn State Northwestern. Although it's not
out of every game,
it might be the better game, one of the better games, but on name, nobody cares about that. But they should, because Northwestern's better than people think. Jeez, I'm tired. Oh, Michigan State, Ohio State. All right. That's the biggest potential upset of the day. That would be I had to pick an upset. I'm not saying it's going to happen. If I had to pick an upset, that'd probably be the one.
30 seconds.
Selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday of tournament weekend here for the Big Ten and everybody else as well. Brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty, Cheryl Sizemore. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back here I'm in Chicago, side of the men's Big Ten basketball tournament, where today Indiana will take on Maryland in the nightcap. Purdue starts things off today with Rutgers. We've got Ohio State and Michigan State. And who's the game that I'm missing?
The Ohio State, Michigan State, and then Penn State, Northwestern.
Who's Northwestern playing?
Penn State.
I thought Penn State was playing. Oh, that's right. Who's Purdue play?
Rutgers.
Gosh, dang it. Too many games going on, man. Too many teams to keep track of. Who's your of the 4 Big Ten games today? Not for any particular reason, but picking as far as an upset, I don't know. I'm kind of torn between Penn State knocking off Northwestern or Ohio State knocking off Michigan State.
Yeah, I would go Penn State. Just the sheer fact that they can light it up from 3, and even on tired legs. Granted, you obviously need your legs to get a lot of those shots to fall, but you can easily shoot yourself out of a drought, and that's one thing that Ohio State doesn't have. So when you're looking at the 2 kind of major ones, theoretically, that you would be looking at, I would side more with Penn State, and just due to the fact that they're coming off of a win against Northwestern a week and a half ago too. So I go there. I think Ohio State's going to run out of gas. I think Michigan State, Tom Izzo's too good in Big Ten tournament play. I doubt, after everything that they've kind of gone on, the ups and the downs this season, to get a double bye and to bow out just like that, I don't think that's going to happen with Tom Izzo today.
Did you know that Micah Shrewsbury is from Jeffersonville, Indiana, originally?
Yeah, I knew they were obviously from Indiana.
I knew he was from Indiana,
yeah,
but not Jeffersonville, because he ended up going, I think, to Ben Davis High School, but he's from Jeffersonville down in southern Indiana. I just learned that last night after all the stuff was going on. We were leaving the area where the team hotel. Was talking to Ned Fowle, one of the IU's biggest supporters, and Scott Dolson was there. But Ned was talking about that he knows his dad. Has known his dad. I think they were in high school together. But I had no idea that he was from Jeffersonville. I knew he went to high school in Indianapolis, but they apparently moved to Indy back then. But yeah, he's actually the coach I'm talking about. Penn State is actually from Jeffersonville, Indiana. So there's another guy that I could have put in that tweet that I sent out way back earlier in the season that had the Indiana coaches that were from Indiana, coaching Indiana, but both the Purdue's coaches, Indiana's coaches, both born in Indiana. I had Dusty May in there, and I think there may have been someone else having great years. I should have had added Micah Shrewsbury. I didn't think about him, but that's just funny thinking about the coaches. We think about the players that come from Indiana, but all the amount of coaches that are out there as well, kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana, no doubt about it. You know, the best basketball minds, players or coaches. I think when you kind of look from top to bottom, and they continue to show up almost every single year. As new head coaches, as assistant coaches in high school, college, anywhere where it may be. The basketball talent is obviously extremely rich in the state.
Some little bit of discussion talking about where Indiana potentially might end up.
in the NCAA tournament. They're not going to end up out west. Midwest, yeah, that's a very, very real possibility. And I think it's probably going to end up being the most likely scenario, unfortunately. I was hoping for the South. Still some hope for that, Alec, but that just kind of depends on how things end up laying out. Purdue will have – actually, it depends upon where Indiana finishes maybe on this. I don't think that they move up a seed line unless they win the Big Ten tournament. Then that's a very real possibility, depending upon a few other things. They'd have to replace some teams. They're not going to climb over Purdue. Even if they beat them a third time, they would be a lower seed than Purdue. Correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No.
Now, would
no,
that would be a mind-boggling stat?
Yeah, I mean, you go back to some of the losses that Indiana's had. Obviously, you go out of conference. Some of the wins that Purdue's had, much more significant than Indiana's wins. So that's where they're going to go back to. Obviously, the loss total overall is another one. And if you get 2 wins in the Big Ten tournament, you're still playing tournament teams, so you're still adding to that resume. So both of these next couple wins for both teams, hypothetically, if they meet in the finals, would kind of zero out. And I see no way that Indiana jumps Purdue on the seed line in the NCAA tournament. Absolutely no.
No, but that's my point though. And imagine if they were to face off for a third time in the Big Ten tournament, and Indiana were to win for a third time over Purdue, they would still not be a higher seed. Just the irony in it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think it shows, I don't know who that shows more of. I think, at the end of the day, there was way too much hype around Purdue for the majority of this season. And I think you're starting to see kind of where they actually are as a team. They don't have enough firepower outside of Zach Edey, and I think that's going to be their one downfall when they do bow out of the NCAA tournament, unless those freshman guards get on some sort of a roll, which I just don't see happening. They've made they've had a phenomenal season. Those freshman guards and Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, they've just struggled way too much in big time moments, in late game situations. That you need experienced guards, and you need guys who have been there before. And that's just one thing that Purdue really doesn't have, unfortunately, because, if you put a couple other shooters around Zach Edey and maybe a more experienced guard, that team would be extremely difficult to beat any given night anywhere. But they just don't have the supporting cast consistently, very much like Indiana. But the one thing that Indiana does have is a lottery pick in Jalen Hood-Schifino, and that's something that you can't teach. And that's something that, while you can obviously help develop, that's something that is just so difficult to get consistently. And Purdue's obviously never really had that from any of their freshmen.
Well, in both of Indiana's wins over Purdue, Jalen Hood-Schifino outplayed both Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer combined. So it showed the importance of what that brought to the table, and other teams have seen that. A coach is going to defend those guards because that's what it's going to take to get that done. What was that? Let's see, before I go here. Yeah, how about this? How interesting would it be for North Carolina and Michigan State to play each other in the NIT championship on the 30th anniversary of the infamous Chris Webber timeout? That would be actually just seeing. Kentucky's going to end up making the NCAA tournament, but can you imagine had North Carolina and Kentucky both been relegated to the NIT?
Yeah, would have been something, but I highly doubt North Carolina's going to the NIT. in terms of accepting a bid. That they're emotionally drained, emotionally done. None of those guys want to play for an NIT.
What's up next for you, Alec?
Yep, obviously a lot of pregame stuff coming up today. A lot of future stuff about this weekend going into the NCAA tournament, and full coverage up on the site throughout the day and throughout the weekend for as long as Indiana's playing.
And something exciting for those of you, the subscribers at thehoosier.com and a lot of others. Charlie Miller, who does the Hoosier Cast this weekend, tonight, his guest is, who did I say it was? Joe Hillman. Yes, from the 1987 National Championship team will be on for the Hoosier Cast, and then they will do a separate post-game show. But for those of you that also join on the live stream from thehoosier.com, that's going to be, Charlie is going to be on there at the same time. So you'll have both of that going on. So if you want to jump on thehoosier.com and the Hoosier Cast with Charlie Miller and Joe Hillman on thehoosier.com. So there's that as well. Right?
Yep.
All right.
You froze up a little bit there, so I didn't hear the end of that.
He's excited. All right. Well, he's excited. We're excited. It's tournament time, Tournament Friday. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Thanks a lot, sir.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You betcha. Hey, we're brought to you by Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. For those of you that live down in the Louisville, Southern Indiana area, Floyd, Clark, Harrison, Scott, Jefferson counties, all down through there, Barbara Pop has served those communities for over 3 decades. And no one can get you in the home you want quicker, easier, and with less expense than Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com or our friend Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. We're back with more Indiana Sports Speed Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda is...
Jim, I've got your question to Woodson and your question to Jalen Hudjafino loaded up if you want to use any of those.
I will. Is Zach up next?
I think he should be, yeah.
Okay. Hey, I got leftover pizza. Oh, yeah, baby. Leftover pizza. That's what's for breakfast.
All right, I guess Zach must be running a little behind or might be playing on the next segment. I'm not sure, but he's not in here yet.
Well, always text him and ask him.
All right, I'll shoot him a text. 20 seconds.
Decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Great to be here. It's coming to you from Chicago, site of the 2023 Men's Basketball Big Ten Tournament at the United Center. Home of the former Michael Jordan led Bulls. There's a lot of banners hanging up in there. I was sitting there leaning back last night thinking, man, oh man, think about all the nights the greatest player that ever played the game roamed the floors of that place. And then I started thinking about all the young kids who think LeBron James is the greatest to ever play. And how wrong they are. But that's a debate for another day. Looking over on the Andy Moore Honda hotline for comments. A lot of people asking about Indiana seed. I don't see him moving off of the 4 line. Winning the Big Ten tournament, that is the only thing that could possibly make a difference. And that would still need help from above. You have to have teams that move down. But they're either going to be, I think they're going to end up in the Midwest. But that's just a guess. What the hell do I know? Especially when it comes to what the NCAA is going to decide. Michael was asking someone, how far do you think that Purdue has to get in the tournament for this season not to be a failure, considering where most people had them in the Big Ten before the season started? Good question. I think you have to take the where people had them before the season started out of the equation now, because that no longer matters what people thought they were going to be. That's just a presumption. It was an incorrect presumption. So that's all that was. The reality is they're an okay team. I don't think they're as good as what they're being made out to be. I don't think they're as good as their record. And this is not sour grapes, but here's some truth for you. Purdue played the bottom of the Big Ten schedule twice. That's just a fact, man. So, and along the way, they barely beat Ohio State on the last second 3-point shot and took 2 overtimes to win against Nebraska. They've lost Indiana twice. I just think that Zach Edey is too much for most teams to take, but Purdue as a team is not a great team. Now, does that change next year? Very well should. Their guards are going to be a year older. They're going to have Zach Edey back. They could be monsters next year. But that's not this year. But does that mean they can't win the Big Ten tournament? No, they can. I think it's going to be interesting. Who could stop Purdue at this time besides Indiana? Is there anybody besides Indiana that can beat Purdue in the Big Ten in this tournament right now? I guess anybody can. Rutgers has done it before. But Rutgers is not the same Rutgers they were the first time they played. I think they're down a man. Then you have Ohio State and Michigan State. I don't see anything there. Northwestern, because of their guard play, they could beat Purdue. But no team has the in and out combination that Indiana does. That it excels over Purdue, because you've got a player that Indiana's the only team that has a player that can match up to Zach Edey. And they have better guard play. So that's why Indiana screwed themselves this season. Let's just be honest. As far as the Big Ten season goes and their shot to win a Big Ten championship, Indiana screwed themselves, losing at Iowa, losing at home to Northwestern. There were just games they shouldn't have lost. That's neither here nor there. It is what it is. They have opportunities to redeem all of that. Because what you do now makes everybody forget all about what happened during the season. Wins in the tournament seem to count for way much more. But this is also where Purdue is looking. They're going to be looking forward to next year. Indiana is going to have questions next year because of what all is going to be lost. It's not like this is the final ride. This is the final ride for Trace Jackson Davis and his crew, though. And his long career, this is going to be it. I'm sure that is something that's in his mind and he's thinking about it. As a matter of fact, JoJo, if you have those clips, we were able to meet with Trace Jackson Davis, Jalen Schifino, and Mike Woodson yesterday. I'm not sure who you have pulled up first, JoJo.
It can either be Woodson or Jalen Hood-Schifino, whichever one you prefer.
Well, let's go with Mike Woodson first. The head coach is I mentioned a minute ago, coming into his second Big Ten tournament. Probably a lot more comfortable than the first, just because it was just something so totally different. But he is coming into his second tournament, and I asked him about. I know that the big picture is the NCAA tournament, but the Big Ten is something. Winning the Big Ten is something Indiana's never done. And what their thoughts were with that. Here's Mike Woodson.
Well, we've done some things here in the last little over a year and a half that I've been here that we hadn't done in a long time. And so you got to give credit to a lot of these players and my coaching staff for making that happen. Listen, I'm not worrying about the NCAA. Right now the Big Ten tournament is staring us in the face. I thought last year we made a nice run at it, but we fell short. So, now this is a new season, a new opportunity to go out and try to win the Big Ten tournament. Then we'll worry about the NCAA tournament. But Big Ten tournament is staring us in the face, and we got a grand opportunity to just like the teams that are still winning and the teams that are waiting to play just like us.
There's Mike Woodson, his thoughts on playing the Big Ten tournament. There's a lot of talk about not liking the tournament. Does it take away from the NCAA tournament? I'm sure that they'd rather have that weekend of rest. They probably deserve that weekend of rest. And maybe would that make the tournament better? I don't know. Probably. I'm going to have to guess yes. But we are where we are, and that's how it is. What are your thoughts on Indiana's shot to win their first Big Ten tournament? I think they're in pretty damn good shape, to be honest with you. Of course, they've been in good shape before. They've had better teams. Not that this is not a good one. They've just had better teams that have not been able to come away with this title. But this is the team that, ironically, the only team that is left that they have not beaten is Maryland. But they only played Maryland once, and that was on the road, where Maryland just didn't lose to anybody except for UCLA this season, who will be a number 1 seed, no less. Keep that in mind. But I think Indiana gets business taken care of without question. I think you're going to see an Indiana-Purdue final, and I think that's going to be cool as hell. We'll see if that really happens. Everybody's got to, pull their weight, but wow, how incredible would that be? And now, would it have been better in Indianapolis? Yeah. But even though it's in the United Center, I don't think that would matter. You get Indiana and Purdue in the Big Ten championship game, and the United Center is going to become Indiana Northeast without question. Speaking of Indiana Northeast, shout out to all of our peeps listening on WJRB, JOB, the voice of the region. Hope you guys are doing well. We're not that far from you right now, ironically. Some of the other games mentioned Marquette, UConn in the Big East. Numbers. A couple of good teams. The Penn State game and Northwestern, that's the second half of the Big Ten today. And that starts at 5:30, and then 25 minutes after that is Indiana. Purdue plays the first game of the day, and they're followed by Ohio State and Michigan State after that. Then in other games, Kentucky plays Vanderbilt again today, a team they lost to, unbelievably, at Rupp Arena not too long ago. So how about that? Dusty May's FAU squad is in the CUSA Championship semifinal. That's at 11:30 a.m. today, so that's going on right now. Number 1, Houston in action. They play nobody. Number 4, Alabama plays today against the Mississippi State team. Not terrible. The 21-win squad there. Let's see. Missouri. Number 25, Missouri, and number 17, Tennessee. They'll tangle at 2 p.m. Looking at any other games of note. Iona and Rick Pitino. They are in the MAAC championship semifinal. As I mentioned earlier, does Rick Pitino end up at St. John's? They would be stupid not to hire him. UConn, Marquette, Penn State, Northwestern. That game, like I said, starts the second half of today's Big Ten tournament. Number 3, Kansas takes on Iowa State today. Miami and Duke. Speaking of Miami, their big booster, John Ruiz, has threatened to sue the NCAA. This is the guy who has spent about $10 million on athletes, purchasing athletes, by the way. We got lots more we'll go over when we come back, and we'll hear from Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino, and much more. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg, Indiana. When you're down in Southern Indiana, stop by, see Dr. J. You come away with that championship smile. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from Chicago and the Big Ten tournament right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home in the Indiana
Man. No offense, people. I'm ready for this one to be over. I'm tired.
$30 seconds.
Menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hobbs' Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Welcome aboard. It is tournament time, coming to you from the Mobile Studios in Chicago, site of the 2023 Men's Big Ten Basketball Tournament. Some other news in college basketball, though, if you missed it. Georgetown fires Patrick Ewing. That is probably a headline that should never be written, really. I mean, been there for 6 years. You don't fire a legend like that. I mean, let him just walk away. During his time, they went 75 and 109. One winning season out of 6. His last 2 seasons have been the worst, going 6 and 25 and 7 and 24. That's horrific. Let's just be honest. That's just downright god awful. Tom Crean went 6 and 25 with nobody, playing a Big Ten schedule. Of course, as a player, Patrick Ewing led Georgetown to the national championship in 1984 before starting his 17-year NBA career. But where does Georgetown go now? I mean, they're not a football school. It's college athletics changing. NIL. Where do schools like Georgetown fit in? It'll be interesting to see. Bill Self
will miss the entire Big 12 tournament after a medical procedure. The rumor was that he had a heart attack, but according to this report, he did not suffer a heart attack, the university said, but spent Wednesday night as a patient at the University of Kansas Health System. He arrived at the emergency department last night and underwent a standard procedure that went well. The school said he's expected to make a full recovery. No further medical details released for now. So there's that. That could have a major effect on Kansas. Kansas is my pick to win the national championship again, and that's saying something considering that would give them back-to-back titles. But does this help or hurt them? I mean, not having your coach usually hurts you, but sometimes you are able to use the mental bounce in your favor. I don't think he'll be out the whole time, but let's see. We'll find out, and we'll see how much that matters on this. Who are your picks to win the national championship? We've talked about there's just no one that stands out. Who do you think is actually going to win the national championship? Is Houston overrated? Alabama is definitely a team that can win the national championship. I don't know that they do. They've got a lot going on. It'll be interesting to see how they withstand that throughout the rest of the tournament. Does the Big Ten have a team? I don't think the Big Ten has the team that can win the national championship. I think they have a couple of teams that could potentially make the Final Four, Indiana being one of those. I don't see Purdue making the Final Four, though. And there's nobody else on the other side of that bracket that I see that could get there either. For a league that was thought to be so strong again, I just don't. I'm not sure I see it. Indiana is definitely one of the best teams coming out of this league, I think. And I think that timing is going to be of uber importance. Who picks this time to play the best right now? That's one thing I'm going to look forward to watching in the Big Ten tournament. Who is playing their best basketball right now? Who is peaking right now? Who's coming together as a team right now? That is going to be the difference, people. JoJo, you have those clips, I think, that we spoke to Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino yesterday as they were preparing for today's matchup. This is the first Big Ten tournament for Jalen Hood-Schifino. And I asked him about that. Here's what he had to say.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's basketball, so we already know what we came here to do. A lot of times in this tournament, we're going to play teams that we already played multiple times, so it's going to come down to the mental mistakes or whatever. So we just got to stay locked in and be prepared. So I feel like we've been going hard these last couple of days, and we're excited to get out there and play.
Jalen Hood-Schifino, just looking at it. Go ahead. Was that you or me talking?
You.
Oh, okay. I just thought I heard something bounce back. Yeah, he just
taking it as another game, which is the smartest thing to do. Guys like that have been through a lot. No, have they? He has not played in the NCAA tournament before. No, he's not played in the Big Ten tournament before. No, but he's looking at it as another basketball game. The tournament is a byproduct, which is the best way to approach that. Trayce Jackson-Davis, on the other hand, this is his last go-round. He's been here 3 times before, and there's no question that he would like to. You want to talk about leaving a mark? Winning Indiana's first Big Ten tournament. That would leave the mark. I mean, I think that would leave a bigger mark than if they were to go, unless they went to the Final Four. There's nothing more that Indiana could do this season than win the Big Ten tournament that would cement Trayce Jackson-Davis's legacy more. Let's hear what Trayce Jackson-Davis had to say.
Oh, I don't quite have Trace's clip finished yet.
All right. We'll wait to hear that. But when we do, he's a veteran, man. And that's the thing that I've noticed here in just very recently with him. And it really stood out at senior day. When he took the microphone and they give the speeches, most guys are, they're not comfortable. They're I just want to, thank my coaches. They've always been there, J-Rod and Beboff, the managers. But Trayce Jackson-Davis was addressing the crowd, looking up at them, holding the mic, walking around and pointing out things and pointing banners and things that he wants to hang and directing the audience and eliciting responses from the audience. That's a comfort. That's a very comfortability that a lot of people don't have. And if you have that kind of comfort in front of an audience like that, where you're trying to take them somewhere, that is a great sign on the basketball court. I just had not seen that from him up until now. And I think the fact that he knows he's in the final throes of something you don't think is going to end when you start it. And that being his career at Indiana, not that he didn't think it was going to end, but it seems so far away. It always does. And it's here now. And he is embracing it. And he truly, he wants to win going out. I think you're going to see, and I hope I'm not wrong, a hell of a Big Ten tournament if you're an Indiana fan. I don't know that it's going to result in a championship, but I think it's going to get damn close. It's going to be fun. I truly do. This has the hallmarks of an Indiana-Purdue final. Damn it. I know I keep saying it, but as long as Northwestern doesn't get in the way, I think that's the team that Indiana has to worry about the most. Obviously, they've lost to them twice, but it's because of that great guard play they have. And Indiana doesn't have two great guards. Trey Galloway's really good and very solid. He's not Xavier Johnson. If Indiana had Xavier Johnson and Jalen Hood-Schifino, forget it. Forget about it. But it's going to be interesting. I think Trey Galloway has made great strides, and I think that he's a smart enough player that he'll use his brain to offset what they were not able to do the first time around.
Looking at the Andy Moore Honda comments, make sure we're not. Russell said it's getting some snow in Fort Wayne. Yeah, well, we're getting snow in Chicago as well. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from Trey Jackson Davis as we're coming to you from Chicago, Illinois, site of the 2023 Big Ten Men's Basketball Tournament. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's at our place or yours,
Absolutely, it's huge. Honestly, we're here competing for something. Obviously, last year we were too, but at the same time, we had that like anxiety almost in the back of our minds of not making the tournament. So we were clawing and scratching, and we still got to do those things, but we can play a lot more relaxed. We can play our type of basketball, and we're just ready to get out there and get started.
Jalen.
30 seconds.
An exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
this segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. I hope you're rested, relaxed, ready for the weekend. Basketball, baby, whether you're attending, and if not, boy, oh boy, I'd be on the couch, remote in hand. May have to have an extra TV or two packed up, ready to go, because there is going to be tons and tons and tons of action. And then the big show comes on Sunday with a selection Sunday to see who is going where A lot of awards being handed out this time of year. Trace Jackson Davis, one of 2 unanimous selections for all Big Ten. Of course, Zach Edey, the other, from the media and the coaches. Trace is the first Hoosier to be selected all Big Ten 4 years since Yogi Ferrell. So he continues to write the record books. Jalen Hood-Schifino, of course, selected as Freshman of the Year by both the coaches and the media. That's an award not won by a Hoosier since Noah Vonleh in 2014. He also picked up enough votes to be included on the All-Big Ten second team by the media and third by the coaches. Miller Kopp was the Big Ten Sportsmanship Award honoree for Indiana. Not sure exactly what that is, but the last time out, Indiana mounted the program's largest comeback of the season to erase a 12-point deficit in their 75-73 win over Michigan. That showed fight. They took that game to Michigan looking great, and then it kind of falls apart, and you think, wow, what the hell happened there? And then they come roaring back. Good to see from this team. And I think they're in great shape going into this tournament. Really are. Trace Jackson Davis is in a good shape. He's healthy. Jalen Hood-Schifino is playing his best basketball of the year, which is what you want. Race Thompson seems to be healthy and playing pretty damn good right now as well. Trey Galloway has gotten much more accustomed to being in the role that he's in. And that's what you have. Anything other than that would be bonus if Miller Kopp can come through with some scoring or whatever the case may be. But they're going to need that from somebody. It's Big Ten tournament time. And I talked to Trace about it yesterday. And it's a different situation than last year coming here. This year, it's very relaxed for them. They were able to play themselves into a different position. And let's hear Trace tell you what he thought about it.
Absolutely, it's huge, honestly. We're here competing for something. Obviously, last year we were too, but at the same time, we had that little anxiety almost in the back of our minds of not making the tournament. So we were clawing and scratching, and we still got to do those things, but we can play a lot more relaxed. We can play our type of basketball, and we're just ready to get out there and get started.
Yeah, that clawing and that scratching, everyone talked about the travel and the NCAA tournament last year having an impact on Indiana when, I don't think that was it. I think it was right there. It was the mental drain going into the Big Ten tournament, having to play those 3 tough games in a row. Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, which they nearly won that one, but they beat 2 teams they hadn't beaten in a long time along the way, 2 good teams. That took a lot out of them. And I think that had a lot more to do with them losing to St. Mary's last year than anything. It was all the energy spent to get there, all that energy they spent to qualify for the Big Ten tournament, and they barely squeaked in. And most of us thought that they were in solidly after beating Illinois, and it turns out they weren't. They had to play a damn play-in game. But as you heard Trace Jackson Davis just say, they don't have to worry about that this year. It's a much more relaxed effort. They can think about the Big Ten tournament without pressure. If we lose it, we got the big tournament to play next week. And it's not that they don't care about it. It's not the most important thing on their mind. It is the next game, but I'm pretty positive they would much rather do better in the NCAA tournament than the Big Ten. Although it would be a great I've said this. This would be a nice little jewel for Trace Jackson Davis's crown, his royal career crown that has no jewels other than records, personal records. Can they do that? Yeah. Can they win 3 games in a row? Yeah, they can. We've seen them do it. Can they win 3 games in a row against 3 good teams? I definitely, they have the talent to do it. Do they have the mental capacity to do it? We'll find out. You know, those teams have to do the same. The teams they're playing, they have to do the same. And Northwestern has got some talent. They're running on a lot of energy, a lot of emotion. Ole Miss and Ohio State, I think they're just both happy to be here. Michigan State, probably fighting for a better seed. Ohio State, they're fighting for nothing. They have no shot to win this tournament and no shot to make the NCAA tournament. Purdue is still fighting for a number 1 seed. And they would have to have help to accomplish that. Does the Bill Self thing impact that? What if Kansas loses in the Big 12 tournament? Now, they're the number 1 overall seed, so I cannot imagine that they get punished for Bill Self not being there with him expected back. So I don't know that Purdue can climb back up into that number 1 seed line. Because it's not as much about climbing up as climbing over. Someone would have to fall. Alabama, Houston's not going anywhere. I don't think that they would drop Alabama. This time of year, man, these teams are pretty much settled. UCLA's not going anywhere. They're looking good. UCLA, you want my pick for the national championship right now? UCLA. They are playing good basketball. They've got a hell of a coach in Mick Cronin. And, man, he has done a hell of a job. He replaced Steve Alford, of course. And UCLA has been nothing but happy since that happened. Steve Alford's Nevada team might have missed out on the NCAA tournament with a loss last night, speaking of which. But UCLA, they're looking like a juggernaut right now. Thank goodness they'll be out west. Where does Indiana end up? Midwest or the South? Only time will tell, but we'll know in 2 days. We will know in 2 days as I quickly going through the Andy Moore Honda hotline to see if there's any more comments. There's so many. Who's going to be Notre Dame's next coach? Who's going to take on that role? Because I don't see Notre Dame being really competitive, not at the ACC level, if the ACC comes back with NIL. Because although Notre Dame would have tons of money from alumni, I don't think they're getting into the NIL game. They are above it. And I get it. But either jump on the train or get left behind in this situation. And we'll see what happens there. But I think that was part of what led to Mike Bray's exit. He's like, yeah, I can't fight this battle. Now, does he coach again? I don't know. If I were him, I would just get into TV. He's got a great personality. less stress. That's what I would do. But we'll find out. What are some of the games you're looking forward to today outside of the Big Ten? And there are a plethora of them. Big 12 has games. They should have a ton of great games, as a matter of fact. We pull up today's schedule. They should be in order of times, and it's like they're not even close. Of course, Purdue and Rutgers start things out here in Chicago. The Big Ten tournament. Maryland and Indiana will close things out tonight. In between, you'll have Ohio State, Michigan State, Northwestern, and Penn State. Houston plays today. Alabama plays today. Tennessee, Missouri plays today. UConn Marquette, rather. Iowa State, Kansas without Bill Self. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how that championship game goes without him. Interesting game here, Duke and Miami in the ACC. There's two teams that are pretty equally matched. Arkansas and Texas A&M in the SEC. Arkansas, well, Texas A&M is number 18 and been a good 23-8 good team. Arkansas has been decent. Speaking of UCLA, they take on Oregon today. And that is the semifinals of the Pac-12 tournament. Creighton and Xavier might be the game of the day in the Big East tournament semifinal. Number 24 Creighton, number 15 Xavier. Here's another great game though in the Big 12, like I was talking about. TCU and Texas. That's tonight. That's a battle. Virginia in the ACC, looking to win that league. They take on Clemson in the semifinal. And Arizona hosts Arizona State tonight. Number 8, Arizona. That doesn't begin until 10:30. So you can watch basketball all damn day long, if that's what you wish to do from here forth. That's what I would do. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'll be watching it live. Well, great question for us. Great question for Alec. We had him on earlier. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, Renata. I'm just, not that they shouldn't get rid of Patrick Ewing, but there should have been a better way they handle that. I mean, he's a legend. You shouldn't fire a legend. That's the wrong one. You shouldn't fire a legend like that. There's so many people. Jim Boeheim. Look how he went out. But he chose that. Acted like Jim Boeheim right till the very end. What was with that? So are you retiring? Oh, that's the school. Do you want to come back? I don't know. What are you saying? It was ridiculous. But that's Jim Boeheim. Why not be ridiculous to the end? That's okay. That's good. Be that way. That's who he is. Russell, I just lost your great comment you had, and I'm trying to find it. Russell asking Michael, when did Fort Wayne turn to Purdue country? Well, it's not. It's everything. Fort Wayne's a great mix of IU fans, Purdue fans, Notre Dame fans. Probably who's doing the best at the time. Fort Wayne's got it going on, man, because they support Indiana, Purdue, and Fort Wayne and Notre Dame. So whoever's having a better season, you can follow them. Steven says the Buckeyes are on a roll. Well, we'll find out. Can they take care of business today against Michigan State? You know what? Of the 4 teams to play, Michigan State's definitely the easiest. You wouldn't want to play Purdue. You wouldn't want to play Indiana. You damn sure wouldn't want to play Northwestern. They get Michigan State. So what are my Big Ten picks today? Oh, Purdue wins over Rutgers. Indiana wins at the top and the bottom. And then the other 2 games are potential upset games. Not that Northwestern's expected to lose, but I'm just there. It can't be 1, 2, 3, 4. It can't be chalk. Somebody's got to upset somebody. Ohio State is on a little bit of a better run. I think that Michigan State is the easier team to beat as opposed to Penn State for Northwestern. It's tough to call, but I will. I'm going to go with Penn State upsetting Northwestern. How about that? Which would be great for Indiana fans because that's who IU would play against next. But you got to keep your eyes on that Ohio State Michigan State game. I think that's going to be a hell of a game. Chris Holtman's had a crap year. You win some games in the Big Ten tournament, you leave just a little bit of a better taste in the mouth of your fans, of the administration for next season. You've got Bryce Sensabaugh, unless he's leaving. They could certainly use a little of that kind of karma. So we'll see how that turns out for him. Don't think I have any more comments I need to hit up on. You guys are mostly talking to yourself, which is great. Love that. Let's see. I'm heading out to the United Center here shortly, unbelievably. It's an all-day affair, peeps. Is anybody coming up for the Big Ten tournament? Those of you that live in the northern side of the state, it's not that far, man. It's an easy drive. This was the easiest drive in Chicago I've ever had. And I had to say I enjoyed it. And I'm going to enjoy this tournament because I think it's going to be a good one. And I think it's going to be packed with Indiana fans and Purdue fans beginning today as they start rolling in and hanging out and turning Chicago into a red and black. It's like someone said, it's going to be red and black all right again, but it's not going to be for the Bulls. You're going to see a lot of red and black in here, and I promise you, if it is a Purdue-Indiana final on Sunday, man, we're probably going to have to add some shows over the weekend. So just keep out on the lookout. But of course, they'll be on the YouTube channel. Don't forget Charlie Miller and the Hoosier Cast for the game tonight, simulcasting along with those of you on the live blog on thehoosier.com. So you can have all that together at once, commenting with other people, enjoying the game with other people, and his guest, Joe Hillman. How about, Joe's great, from the 1987 NCAA championship team. So looking forward to that. Another great week. Thanks to Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Thanks to Joe, the producer, for filling in. John's on assignment. I'd say we'll be back on Monday, but we will probably be back. You'll probably see me before then. I'll probably jump on some of the post-game shows that'll be going on with Charlie after each of the Indiana tournament games. But also don't forget the Hoosier Cast during the games. Those links will be out and about. You can see those and just link on to them. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube if you haven't already. Big thanks to all of our peeps
up in the region, listen to us on WJOB, the voice of the region, 1230, 104.7. Our River Rats down in Evansville listening to us on the Rafta ESPN 97.7. Always the right call at 89.9 WBRO, Marengo as well. All of you guys and everyone listening on YouTube, wherever you may be, looking forward to this weekend. So keep the comments coming. Keep staying tuned because we're going to have a lot of stuff coming up this weekend. But until tonight, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.